Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Practice Joy Show. Today I have Dr. Grant Dennis with me. I'm really looking forward to this talk. We have our roots are planted from the same soil within the art, philosophy, and science of chiropractic. And Dr. Grant is an Amazon bestseller, author, and an upper cervical specific chiropractor, operating 2 clinics in the state of Arkansas in full-time practice since 2016. And you live in, tell me a little bit about Arkansas. I know nothing. Jersey girl.
Yes. Arkansas is Razorback country. You won't meet anybody probably that lives in the state of Arkansas who's not a huge Razorback fan.
What is Razorback?
So
is that horrible?
it's the University of Arkansas.
Got it.
And we don't have any pro teams. We have one college team essentially, and it fuels the fan fanatics in Arkansas. And so everyone Woo Pig Suey's Razorback fans. I'm one as well. But the state of Arkansas is beautiful. I mean, a lot of people, I tell people if I was to blindfold you, heli drop you in certain places in Arkansas and take the blindfold off and be like, okay, guess what state you're in? The last place you would say is Arkansas.
Awesome.
It's gorgeous. Lakes, streams, mountains. It's a natural state. It's gorgeous.
I want to go. I'm in a part of the country that I'm not very familiar with, and I want to go 2 hours out from everywhere that I am. So let's talk about joy in practice. That's what we're doing here. The goal of the Practice Joy Show is to give wellness practitioners opportunities to learn how to honor, how to infiltrate, how to spread joy like wildfire to their practices. And we've got practitioners listening in from all over the world. So tell me a little bit about how your practice of joy shows up in your world.
Yeah. I think for me, it starts with my purpose. I think it's my why. I exist on this world and was placed here to help people overcome and live life beyond expectations, and that be the rule and not the exception. And that's what I think allows me to take joy into my office every single day. And I personally think joy is kind of a look into the soul. I think that it sort of is an expression of the inner being that someone is as far as their happiness truly, of how they view themselves. And so I just some days have to wake up and pinch myself and say, I can't believe I get to take care of people. I get paid to do this. I would totally do this for free. Of course I can't, because I need to get resources to help more people. And my service drives the money it gives me the ability to service my people, and instead of the other way around. And so joy for me inside my practice is an energetic understanding that energy can either be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. People come to me, and what's tough about this sometimes, I think, for wellness practitioners is we take care of people a lot of times who don't feel the greatest. They're sick. A lot of times don't, come in with conditions. Me personally, I take care of a lot of migraine cases. These people are sick. And so when they come in, and it's my job to, when they come in with faith, provide them with the opposite of faith, which is certainty. And I think certainty through joy is what, doesn't matter what field you're in, doesn't matter your particular emphasis. If you can provide people who come in on faith with an unbelievable level of certainty, but not just certainty with joy. I think certainty with joy is a success
How
formula.
do you think people find certainty? I'm so mesmerized by the concept of certainty because there's so little that I'm certain of. And I'm aware of the fact that the older I get, the less I am certain of. When I was younger, I felt certain of a lot more. But now that I'm on this side of 50, I'm certain of maybe 1 or 2 things. So how do you lean into certainty, and talk to me a little bit about the relationship between joy and certainty? I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think certainty in knowing that I can definitely help somebody. I think anytime someone comes to us, there's one of 2 reactions. There's either I can definitely help you, or I'm not sure if I can help you. I think that's the first step, is identifying who is the person that you are on an intimate level, with as an ideal client. So when he comes in, I can really resonate very quickly with whether this person I am meant to serve. If I know I'm meant to serve, that I'm here to serve them, there's a lot of different ways and cues we can pick up on that. It can just be through a conversation. It can be a Zoom consult. It can be a lot of different ways we interact with someone to understand I am definitely certain I can help you. And I think another level to that is the level of self-investment you put in yourself to be able to have esteem enough to make that declaration.
Like what? What's
I would say, like
self-investment?
in my field, for example, I'm an upper cervical doc, and
What
so,
does that mean to
yeah, so
people
it's essentially
listening?
just a specialty within chiropractic to look at just the upper neck.
Hmm.
And so I talk to a lot of people who don't even know a thing like that exists,
Don't
much
even
like,
know that there's an upper part to the neck.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, or that there's factions of chiropractic that just specialize in pediatrics or just certain specialties within that. So I spend an enormous amount of time investing in my craft, investing in my analytics, investing in what it is I do to identify that this person is in the right place. I think there's a lot of power behind that statement. There's a lot of power when someone comes into you, regardless of what your profession is, by saying, I just want you to know you're definitely in the right place. I think in and of itself, it brings people joy. Okay, because I think a lot of people come to wellness providers and go, am I in the right place? Is this where I'm supposed to be?
Right.
They go to so many different things, and then they get different experiences. And so I think there's a lot of power behind that. And I think what it does is allow someone, when you say, I just want you to know, Jody, you're definitely in the right place.
They also go to offices where it sounds something like, hi, this is Jody Dinnerman. I'd like to make an appointment as a new patient. And the answer to that request is, what insurance do you have? And I say to them, don't you want to know about me before you ask me about my insurance? And the answer is, no, we need to know if we can see you. So before even and I understand that insurance has its time and place. I understand the value of it. But I think that there has been such a disconnect that's happening between the connection with the practice member on their end of the experience, but also the connection with the person on the phone. The person on the phone, there's no education with many practices that there's somebody calling the office because they're in need. They're wanting to know that they're in the right place. They're wanting to hear, you're home, we're going to take good care of you. And instead they're hit with a financial wall that happens to be about insurance or time or energy or whatever it might be. So how do you protect that in your practice?
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because there's so many different, those are what I call interferences.
Yes.
to somebody reaching their optimal potential in your office, is that immediately they're hit with, or they provide you with opportunities to create interferences.
Yes.
And for me, I try to remove all friction to transaction and any interference to the ability for them to understand, first off, why I'm happy, why I'm joyful, why I'm excited you called me, and why I'm excited I'm potentially might be it's a solution for you. But I think removing interferences, removing friction to transaction, that's something I think today, with people having very short mind spans as far as their attention span. I see it a lot, especially in a lot of businesses I look at, even for myself as a consumer. There's a lot of friction to the transaction that needs to occur. Enter this, click this, go to this page, give me all this info, and it just creates interference. I think sometimes people just want to know, can you help me? What does your process look like? And does this sound like someone I can trust, find credible, and might be able to help me? So just at whatever level of your practice that people encounter you at, whether it's social media, online, a phone call, look at a lot of the ways that you're creating interference and you're creating friction for people to transact with you, but also to be able to experience your service. I mean, it's amazing to me how many people are so passionate about their service, but yet they put up all these roadblocks for people to be able to access it. And so I think for me, that's one of the things I try to always assess and look for, is how can I remove the interference, remove the barriers, and remove all the friction to them being able to transact. And sometimes the transaction is just a conversation.
And I'm not hearing what you're saying as your fees should be really low, or there should be fair exchange when it comes to providing a service, especially if you got talent and you've really worked hard on your skill set. But we put so many obstacles, and you can have this, but first you have to do this, this, and this. So I also want to talk about what happens behind closed doors as far as how you protect the sense of joy for yourself in practice. What are some of the things that because I know that you're doing a lot in this world. You're dealing with a lot of people, both inside the practice and outside the practice. You stand on a lot of platforms. So talk to me a little bit about what happens in your personal world to make sure that joy is front and center.
Yeah. Oh, that's so, yeah. So I think most people would agree joy like I said before, it's an introspect into the soul. Are you familiar with who you are, and are you in alignment with that? Or, I think it was Joe Dispenza that said the difference between, the distance or the gap between who you are and who you want other people to see, the larger that gap, the more energy it takes to sustain that gap. So what I try to do is shorten that gap between who I am and who I want people to see. And I want it to be a very small gap. I want people, and I think that's where people say, oh, she's very genuine, or he's very authentic. What they're really saying is that the gap between who they are and who they want people to see, their personal brand, and then who they are as a person. What I have found for me anyway, that I practice every single morning as a daily practice, and I can't take credit for this. This came from a mentor of mine, David Meltzer, and he talks about removing the 3 interferences to potential, which are the 3 needs. And I talked a little bit about this on our live show, which is removing the 3 needs. And those needs are a need to worry, a need to be offended, and a need to be right. I think what most...
I remembered that for like 2 days. And I practiced it for like 2 days, and then I forgot.
Yes, and listen, like I said, that's why it's a daily reminder for me, is because it needs to be. And if you're someone out there who's a wellness professional or wellness provider, and you're struggling with this concept of happiness, fulfillment, and essentially joy, which we know is the combination of the two, then what I've been able to identify for myself anyway is that somewhere I'm creating an interference in my ability to express joy in one of those 3 needs. A lot of times as practitioners, we went through exhaustive schooling. I'm just going to give you an example of this. Go through a lot of school. Well, guess what you have to be in order to get through that schooling and receive that diploma? You have to be right. You have to be right a lot. You have to be right 70% of the time. And if you're wrong, you don't pass. So what it does is it triggers our physiology to a need to always be right. And then along that journey, there's this need to worry. Worrying about if I'm right, worrying about if I'm going to pass, worrying about the next test, worrying about the next obstacle. And then the one that most people don't look at, I think, is the need to be offended. And especially in today's world, I think it's one of the biggest.
Give me an example of a need to be offended.
Yeah, so we can't disagree anymore in today's world, right? In today's world, it's very confrontational. If we disagree on something, it means we have to hate each other. It means you offended me. We can't have a conversation, right? On whatever the topic is. And it could be a client coming in saying, okay, I'm not sure I agree that your fee should be that. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. From a place of joy, let's remove that need to be offended. I'm not offended. Let's talk about that. And I think what happens...
So it's a righteousness. The need to be offended is like being righteous. And
I think it stems from the first 2, which is a need to be right and a need to worry. And then what happens is then I'm offended when I don't feel like I'm right. Or I don't feel like, I think it's a place of disempowerment, honestly, of I have to be right. I'm the provider. You are the client. Right. And so I think it also, if we're honest with ourselves, is also a good example of when we have those cases of clients and maybe the case isn't going as well as we want it to. Right. Maybe they're not getting the results that we expect them to get or they expect to get. It's being able to remove that interference and say, you know what? I don't want to be offended by that, and I certainly don't have to be right. And what it does is it opens up the opportunity for collaboration. It opens up the opportunity to be joyful because I don't always have to be right. And I don't always have to have the answers. And sometimes I think our clients, and I think the majority of the time, they understand that. That you're human too. And what you're trying to do is help. And what I've found is in retaining, and I think that's what all wellness professionals are looking for, is a higher retainment. How can I retain more people? How can I keep more people under my umbrella? And I think it's if they view you as a trusted health advisor. And I think building a trusted health advisor comes from understanding the client knows you don't always have to be right.
You know, I have gotten really good at saying, is somebody sending a question my way in my practice and saying, Sally, I don't know why your back hurts. I bet your body does though. And it's coming from a place of humility, but with a certainty that I really don't know why I can make assumptions about it. She's got some muscle spasm here, or she's out at whatever it is, right? But also then giving Sally the permission to move into a state of gratitude. So I have a habit in my practice when somebody tells me about their pain, I let them tell me about it because they need to tell their story, as long as it's not like an hour long. Like, sure. Give me a few minutes and tell me what's happening with you. Tell me where you're at, because I really do care. I listen. I do active listening. And then I say, wow, I got it. Okay, now tell me something you're grateful for. And they switch gears, right? Right. They switch gears, and then they fill with a vibration of gratitude, and then they go face down. And I want to go back to something that you were talking about. You were talking about how the need to be right, the need to make everybody agree with you. What I'm finding in my on my own personal journey is that as I move deeper into my purpose on the planet, there's a stronger yield with people who don't agree, who say, absolutely not, Jody, you're not right enough, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. But there are just as many people over here saying, wow, what you're doing is really awesome. And there's always going, and it seems like the more I develop myself professionally, the more I grow and gain the certainty that I'm searching for, the stronger the yield is to, you are not okay and you are not right and you are just right and what you're doing is incredible. So for somebody who's an extrovert, I'm an introverted extrovert. So I look to other people to say, am I okay? I think I'm okay. Am I okay? Does my hair look okay? I think it looks okay. Does it look okay? Whereas my best pal is someone who would say, my hair looks really good and I hope that you see that too. I don't have that certainty about me. So talk to me a little bit, because I know, again, I know that you're in front of a lot of people. How do you stay true to your piece? How do you know that you know what you know? And how do you how do you say, I love you, I thank you, I forgive you, I am you to the naysayers?
Yeah. Oh man.
Because I know that you're going to have them because you've
Yeah.
got a very strong stance in
Yeah,
chiropractic.
absolutely. Yeah. I think that, I think it starts with a very, deep rooted understanding. What I've come to figure out and find out is that the stronger I am in who I am and who I'm meant to be, and that not everybody is going to see things through my lens because they haven't had my experiences and I haven't had theirs. And I think what we have a tendency to do is, I've never seen, for example, a Facebook post sway someone's opinion. I've never seen, a Facebook post be posted,
Right.
and I go, oh, you know what? I'm going to change my whole belief system around that. Because a Facebook post doesn't do that. The only thing in my experience that can change someone's worldview, because that's what we're kind of talking about, is we're digging a little bit into people's worldviews. And we all view the world differently, whether we believe it or not. And I think most people would agree, everybody views the world differently. And what dictates worldview to me is personal experiences. And the only thing that can change, shift, or really tweak your worldview is a personal experience you had. And to me, sometimes that personal experience might be the very solemn, quiet, but very certain ability for me to say, you know what, it's understandable. That's not me. It's not what I'm about. You're not, maybe we're just not right for each other at this time. Because what I do know is that the independent variable always is time, and that a personal experience over time can shift a worldview. So it's not that we're not meant to work together now. It means we're not meant to work together right now. It could be 5 years from now. Maybe you go to 3 or 4 other people and have a bad experience and it shifts your worldview. Maybe you have a life event. Maybe you have something happen that allows you to just completely shift the way that you view the world. Because I think essentially we're all looking at the same object inside a box. We're just looking at it through different holes. And I think different personal experiences that people have shift the way that they view that same object. I can certainly, in my life, witnessed many times where I had a personal experience that shifted the way I viewed something, and then it made me view someone differently that I viewed.
Do you know while you're going through it, like this is going to be one of those experiences that shifts the way that I view?
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where immediately you go, this is a
This is
worldview
big.
shifting thing.
Right.
A lot of times it's when things happen to someone who's near and dear to us, something that happens to us.
A shaker.
Yeah.
Things that shake you up. Right.
Absolutely. And a lot of times it's trauma, unfortunately, but a lot of times it's wins, it's success, it's navigating the world through what we think is right and allowing the world to teach us that maybe we were wrong. And again, it goes back to that ability to say, I was wrong. And I think for whatever reason, I think the term hypocrite, while most people would denote that as a very negative thing, like, oh, you're a hypocrite, I actually view that in my world as a very positive thing. Because what it did is it meant I was able to change my mind. I gave myself permission to change my mind.
Go back, revisit it, and change your
Absolutely.
attachment to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And say, you know what? I view it differently. I changed my mind. I've shifted my viewpoint on it. And to me, that's where the more I do that, the more I find joy. I find is that the more I can align with, I was wrong. I had a scenario that changed. And I was okay with changing my mind, because what I think too, it creates a lot of disempowerment, is people who can't change their mind. Their worldview stays the same regardless of the situations that they encounter, the people they take care of, the things that happen in their office. They stay the same no matter what. And it doesn't lead to growth. And I think what it does is then we get into this reclusive state of non-growth, which then leads to disempowerment and ultimately the furthest we can get from joy in practice.
Hi, it's me, Dr. Jody Dinnerming, your Practice Joy Show host. Thanks so much for watching this episode of the Practice Joy Show. You are officially on commercial break, which means one thing around here: it's time for some gift giving. We get how overwhelming private practice can be, and our overwhelm tools are so simply stated and lovingly delivered. They're bound to leave you smiling. You may be one of our audience members looking to increase joy in a spot or two around the practice. You may be overflowing with joy, but have some room for efficiency with systems. Either way, in our world, you're worth celebrating. We're going to send you 3 days of gifts, which will end up right in your inbox. Your day one gift is all about time management and schedule flow. Adding these time tools are going to let you get out of the office at least 30 minutes earlier each day, so that you have more time to enjoy outside of the office. On day 2, I'm going to send you a free copy of my first book, Staffless. This quick read joy sparker will provide real deal copy-paste solutions for practice front desk systems. And then on day 3, we will conclude the gifting with some practice mindset goodies. Our intention is to pamper you with joy, as we know that a more joyful you equals a more joyful community. Then we can rest assured that our mission is being accomplished: to spread joy like wildfire to practices worldwide. So here we go. Come on over to thepracticejoyshow.com to get your 3 days of gifting. You can also use our QR code. Just open up that smartphone of yours, go to your camera, point and click, and you'll be taken right on over to thepracticejoyshow.com. Once you get to that page, you will see a quick capture form to collect your name, email, and number. Give us your deets and we'll send you the goods. And now, back to the show. One of the things that truly helps us to connect with each other is the things that we have in common. And I know that our love for chiropractic is one of the things that we have in common. And we love the same people, we love the same things, which makes us love each other. That's so right. With that being said, I want to hear a little bit about the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations, because it's changed quite a bit since I was involved politically in chiropractic. When I was a student, I was super passionate about staying in my lane within chiropractic, and really I had my pom-poms out big time, right? And I asked that as you share on what is this organization, can you talk about it through the lens of joy in practice? I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's funny when you said, well, we love the same things. It always reminds me of the quote, I love you because you love the things that I love.
Right.
And one of those things is joy. If you love joy, then you're going to love other joyful people,
right?
And you're going to gravitate towards that.
Unless they're really annoying. I can be really annoying, right? Because of how joyful I am.
Which deters some, and that's okay.
Some people roll their eyes.
That's right. That's okay. That's all right. They'll shift. So the IFCO, the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations, it's a political movement or political organization in any profession or any field of healthcare, no matter what it is. It's regulated and it's licensed typically by a board. Something within your state that you abide to must, fall under the guidance of, that gives you your license to be able to do what it is that you're able to do. And our organization politically essentially governs that internationally for chiropractors in different areas and countries of the world, and keeps an eye on legislation to make sure that it's unique to what it is we hold true to the standards of chiropractic, which for us in chiropractic is the vertebral subluxation, which we know alters the human life expression It leads to people not allowing themselves to reach their full health potential. It's essentially an organization that exists to make sure that every person, every man, woman, and child on the planet has the ability to be checked for that and to experience health at their optimum. And so what's interesting about that, and the reason it brings me so much joy, is because it's the same thing that everybody in every profession does. That's what their profession exists to do, is to bring joy to people's lives.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's massage therapy or it's aesthetics, right? You make people look pretty and feel good about them, which brings them joy. In our world, it's detect, locate, and analyze vertebral subluxation to allow their body to heal optimally and express optimal function, which brings them joy. Which, if that's what brings you joy as a practitioner, and it's what brings the client joy, I think it's a win-win scenario, and it's allowing for the optimal expression of potential in both the practitioner and the patient.
I think that I'm really thinking about the words that you're saying, and I think that I'm not sure that the chiropractic adjustment brings me joy. I think it brings me more connection. And I think that knowing that I have that brings me joy. Like knowing that I can go to my friend to get adjusted on a regular basis, it brings me a sense of security, a sense of freedom, and that gives me joy. Sometimes, and I don't want to confuse our audience, sometimes I get adjusted and I don't necessarily feel good afterwards.
Right.
I feel a whole process brewing. And this morning I got adjusted by my friend Dr. Autumn, and I processed it for an hour. It wasn't necessarily joyful, but the knowing that I have someone on my team to say, Jody, I'm going to take care of your nerve system so that you are the best, clearest, most connected version of yourself, that brings me joy more than anything.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any, like for me anyways, in my world, there is nothing more joyful. You know, as practitioners, I think we go through these layers of what brings us joy. I think early on in practice, it's to be successful and make it. I think early on in practice, it's to achieve a certain financial acumen. Then what happens as growth occurs and you start taking care of more people, joy turns into fulfillment, which the word success to me is not, it's very misconstrued in our society. I think really what success means is fulfillment, because I think if you're fulfilled in what you do, that is what allows you to unlock the gates of joy. And I think the biggest thing that people come in with to us is that's the issue, is that they know something is interfering with my ability to reach my full potential, which is what's strickening me of my joy and ultimately making me feel unfulfilled. It's not what, and I think that's what people watching need to understand, is our clients don't come to us to get rid of the thing. They come to us to get rid of the thing that's interfering with their life.
Right. And they might think that the headache is interfering with their, but what they really want to get to is their life. The headache is the noise. And what I say to my practice members is the headache is your gift. It's your ticket into at this point though, people don't really come to me because they have a headache, because they know that I've gotten so clear about what I do and what I don't do. They come to me because their life is better with chiropractic in it. And that takes years of education. So, talk to me a little bit. So one of the things that I'm experiencing at this point in my career, especially as I move through the joy-filled practice systems and all the things that we're offering, is I get the opportunity to talk to doctors of all trades all over the world. And the whole purpose of this show is I've seen so many doctors unhealthy, burnt out, broke, joyless, with a team of people who won't even talk to them, who hate them, with a marriage that's falling apart, with no judgment, you know?
Yeah.
So I truly also have seen, I truly believe that one of the gifts that we have within chiropractic is that we know that our philosophy is solid. We know that time takes time. We know we have our 33 principles, and we know that from that on that platform, we can do anything. Anything is possible because we know that we know it, that we know. So many practitioners all over the world don't have that. They don't have that philosophy in their profession. So the joy that the certainty of our philosophy gives me it allows me to spread my wings and go so far. What do you say to the people who don't have that don't have the foundation of philosophy to lean on? So important.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is in order for you to love other people, you have to first love yourself. And I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, and life events and different experiences, truly don't love the person that they see in the mirror. And so what happens is there's this weird psychology that happens is that then you over love other people to offset the love you have for yourself. It's where you were kind of talking about that their home life is a complete mess. And what I've found too is I see this a lot in chiropractic, and I'm sure you do, and a lot of others in professions do as well, is that sometimes chiropractors want other people to be on their books and they're not on anyone's books.
Right. We all need to be on under
Right.
really
And
what
so,
good care.
for example, like if you don't have a solid foundation in your particular field, what I would ask you first to then assess is from what's called a mirror perspective is, do you think that, for example, I know a lot of wellness practitioners want more new clients. No matter what it is, I can always use more new clients. Do you actually go for yourself and experience the service you provide?
Right.
Do you actually go and the things you preach, the things you practice, the things you put out content about, do you actually follow? That's one thing I've found super interesting is, for example, people, and it's not a knock, but people who give dietary advice that don't eat well.
Right.
People who warrant and really endorse massage and get one once a year.
And it's fine. I have definitely given myself permission in practice to not be perfect and
Sure.
to fall off of my nutrition protocol. There was a point in practice that I was smoking cigarettes. I've been through a lot in the past 23 years. At the time this is recorded, I'm 23 years in practice. And if I'm going to be saying to people, you shouldn't smoke, then I can't be smoking because it's a contradiction in terms.
Right.
But if I do, as of late, I've been super into intermittent fasting. And I can say, standing tall and with all of the integrity in my heart, you really might want to check out intermittent fasting. There's an expert in it it's definitely not what I'm an expert in because I'm experiencing it. I'm walking that talk.
Right.
So I guess then my question will go back to the philosophy of the profession, and we're so lucky to have it, right? And some of the people who I speak to, I feel bad for them, and I say to them, I just feel like if you had a philosophy to lean on or a belief in something greater than you, for me, it's innate, it's universal, it's the relationship and the dance between. It would take you so much further with your fears. So what do you say to the practitioners, the PTs, the OTs, the chiropractors who don't have tick, who don't, have the respect for the trust and the lean into the philosophy of chiropractic?
Yeah, well, I always say that for me, the chiropractic philosophy is what holds me accountable and is my check. It's all about slipping and checking. And we've all had those moments, but I think if you're in a place where you don't have that, I think it's important to surround yourself with people who will do that for you. So maybe it's being a part of an association. Maybe it's having a meetup with other practitioners in your same field. Maybe it's, let's say if you're an OT, you get together once a month with other OTs and we talk about the results we see. We talk about the groundbreaking research. We talk about things because I think if you don't have the philosophy for me, what it does, it's my check. It's what I always go back to. When I start to question technique, I start to question results, I start to question really anything in my life. The first thing I go to is the philosophy. What are the answers that the philosophy gives me for that? But if you're in a particular profession that doesn't maybe have that, then the first place I would start is, and I would warrant anyone to do that, is find yourself a group of people of like-mindedness who want the same things, who believe the same things, that can give you support, that will from a place of integrity allow you to slip and check, hold you accountable. Like I said, share things with you, share wins, share experiences, and ultimately grow together. A safe place for that to happen, I think that's instrumental. I think whether you have a philosophy or not, you should definitely do that. But even more so important if you're in a profession where the philosophy potentially might be lacking.
I love it. Tell us about your best-selling book on Amazon.
Yeah, so I had a client who came in 2019 who looked me straight in my face, and her name was Lisa, and she said, Dr. Grant, I need to tell you something. And anytime as no matter what profession you're in, you go, okay, sure. She said, no, but it needs to be in private. And I said, okay. So we were in the front wellness lounge in front of my office. I said, hey, Lisa, what's going on? She'd gotten, tremendous results. I thought maybe something was wrong. And she said, Dr. Grant, need to tell you. And she got emotional, of course. And she said, had I not found out about this place and came here, I'm not sure I'd be alive today. And you need to write a book to get the word out about this so that you can find more people like me. Well, what a charge. Yeah, exactly. One of those where you go, oh, that's uncomfortable. Okay. And I kind of just shouldered it for a second in my need to be right and thought, no, that's surely not. Why me? Write a book. That's a tough thing to do. But then about a week went by, I chewed on that. And the next time I saw her, I just, for whatever reason, I told her, I said, you know what, I'm going to honor that. And thank you for telling me that. And I'm going to follow through on that. So I authored a book that released in August of 2020 at the perfect time during COVID, when everyone was at home reading, which is what shot it to a great Amazon bestseller status, is that everyone was sitting at home reading, I'm convinced, with headaches and migraines. And essentially it talks about a life without migraines, which is what I exist to help people, my ideal clients. That's what they're looking for, is they're looking for a life without migraines. And but it was 100% inspiration. The inspiration came from a client. And what's really cool about it is it was never about me. It was more so, who can I reach?
Right.
When I went to my author cohort to have it written, it was with a company called Scribe Media. And Tucker Max, who's a New York Times bestseller 3 times, he said, the only thing that will get you through writing a book is understanding how many lives are affected if you don't finish your book. And that was very powerful to me. I thought, oh my gosh, it's true, because it was the inspiration was someone's life to write it. The inspiration to finish it was all the lives that get affected if I don't. And so for all of the wellness providers out there, I think all of us should be authors and write books, because we all have something to say. We all have a purpose that's big enough to be in a book, but not just about us or our purpose, about the people who need to read it, the message, so the people who need to hear the message, and all the people whose lives are at stake if you don't.
I love it. I've written 4 books, and they were all for an audience of people who are hungry for information about how to do this and what to do next. And I've been on book 5 for like a year now, and I need to finish it. I know there are readers waiting for me.
Absolutely.
So
It's fantastic.
in conclusion, with this episode of the Practice Joy Show, is there anything else that you feel like you really want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I would say, the biggest thing is, if you're somebody out there who joy is maybe a challenge, I think joy sometimes comes easier for some than others as far as it's perceived on the outward appearance. I think some people just inherently seem joyful. They just inherently have a personality that drives joy. And the sad part is sometimes it's people who on the inside are some of the most unjoyful people. And then people who maybe don't appear joyful on the outside, on the inside are very joyful. And it goes both ways. But I think if you're someone out there who's really, if you're honest with yourself, no matter which one you are, says, I really struggle with being joyful, I would encourage you to find people who you would say authentically can look you in the face and say, I am the most joyful person I know with certainty. Get with that person, get with those people, and let's get to the bottom of, and it's certainly not me. I certainly am in a moment of Kaizen all the time, of 1% improvement every day. And we certainly all have things to improve on, but I think we can all agree there's just some people who have the joy game down. They just have, you are certainly one of those people. A lot of the people I'm sure who are watching this, potentially it's you, tap into people and groups of people who want to help you achieve that level of joy, because it's multifactorial. And what I've come to find out is when we can get to the root cause of what it is that's causing that, because we're always wanting, no matter what profession we're in, we're all looking for the root cause. We all just approach the root cause from our own unique perspectives. And it's the same with joy. And there's others who just inherently are really good at sitting down from a place of authenticity and saying, let's talk about what it is that's providing this interference for you to be the most joyful version of yourself. And it's a lot of different things that we could touch on 10 different joy-filled shows that all sort of could be root causes for that. But I think it starts with, I think the biggest thing that it starts with, which starts with most business problems as a personal problem in disguise, is what is it that at my deepest core, if I'm being honest with myself, is causing that? I think people's inability to be honest with themselves, it's certainly something that's really hard to do, but it's self-awareness. Gary Vaynerchuk literally became an entrepreneurial hit by saying, self-awareness is the most important tactic or the most important trait you could have as a human being. is, am I honest with myself or am I lying to myself? Am I honest with myself that I'm joyful? And if I'm being honest, I'm not. If I can just really say, you know what, the biggest thing, if I could solve for joy in my practice, it would 10x my practice. Why would you not do it? And I'm here to tell every one of us, we can all be joyful. We can all be more joyful, not just on the outward side, but on the inward side. And I think if we can all be really honest with ourselves in assessing that, and it may be someone by the assessment saying, you know what, I'm someone who has this down, then find somebody who doesn't and allow yourself to reach an even higher frequency by helping someone who's not.
I love it. I always suggest, one of my favorite suggestions is you can also find a kid and ask them about Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy.
Right.
We were talking about that with the ICPA show, and it rests me assured knowing that people like you are leading not only our profession, but the world at large. And I'm certainly going to continue to do my part, and I'm really grateful that you are too. So thank you for being part of this episode of the Practice Joy Show.